welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their passive income options and also clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrencies, businesses, real estate, or other assets that are subject to capital gains tax, perhaps even gold, so you can create and preserve more wealth and or help your clients do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. We're also streaming on expert CREsecrets.com as well, where we are helping M&A brokers, business brokers, luxury realtors, and commercial real estate brokers grow their business. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He is the Chief Executive Officer and President and Director of Uranium Royalty Corp. And he's been a director of the company since 2017, has been also the Chief Executive Officer since October 2019. He has over 37 years of experience in the nuclear energy industry and has held leadership positions in various uranium mining companies and industry organizations, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Scott Melbye. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Brett, it's great to be here with your viewers and listeners and talk about nuclear energy and how it fits in the global energy mix today.
Beautiful. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, well, I've been very fortunate to have spent my entire career, 37 years to date, in the nuclear energy and uranium industry. Everything from brokering and trading uranium to procuring uranium fuel for a nuclear power plant in Arizona. But the bulk of my career has been with uranium companies, including 3 of the 4 largest uranium mining companies in the world: Cameco Corporation out of Canada, Kazatomprom, the Kazakh National Uranium Company, and Uranium One, the famous uranium nuclear fuel cycle company. But lately, the last 6-7 years, I've really been focused on 2 entrepreneurial endeavors that have been growing Uranium Energy Corp, which is a major investor in Uranium Royalty Corp. One is a mining development and mining company out of Texas, with operations in Texas and Wyoming. And Uranium Royalty Corp is a global royalty and streaming company, which is much more like an ETF that invests in other people's mine and developments and provides that royalty exposure to investors. So both are pure plays in the uranium story, just 2 different ways to get there.
Excellent. This is going to be a really fascinating topic. I love bringing on industry experts like yourself, especially something that's a little bit not as mainstream. We're going to be diving all things today about the opportunity of investing in uranium. But before we go there, Scott, I do want to take one other step back. And I want you to go back maybe to your university days or your college days. And, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and they've been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call them strengths, some people call them superpowers. So I'm curious, what are those 1 or 2 things or gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, no, I think it's a blessing really for anyone in their lives, in their careers, to passion in something and really be able to focus on that. And some people find these passions early in life, some people find them later. I was really getting into the resource business, and at the time I didn't know if that would be in gold or silver, copper, oil and gas, or uranium, but I just knew I wanted to be in an industry like that, and focused all of my sort of educational background and experiences around that. So it's really kind of gratifying now to look 37 years later and to have really had a fulfilling career in the uranium industry, of all industries. Not exactly mainstream career, but again, I would just encourage people to really follow those passions, whatever it is, and focus all your energy in it. Nothing comes easy. The rewards go to those who really work hard and make it happen. So again, it's been an interesting time, but I have to say these are probably the most exciting times that I've had in my career for a number of reasons, which I'm sure we'll discuss.
Love it. Yeah. So passion and focus, right? So the ability to be very passionate about what you do and the education behind it, and then very focused on that industry. Absolutely love it. So let's dive right into the topic. What's the biggest secret, Scott, in regards to investing in uranium?
Yeah, the key to investing in uranium is very similar to investing in any mineral commodities and resources. And it's really focusing on the supply and demand fundamentals. And it's one of the things that I like about the resource industries. You can actually look at the demand for whether it's copper, gold, uranium. You can also look into the mine production and the secondary sources of supply and really come up with a thoughtful forecast of where a commodity is heading. Uranium is probably in one of the most ideal situations right now in that, we went through a very difficult period after Fukushima, which impacted both supply and demand. On the demand side, we saw Germany move away from nuclear power. We saw Japan shut down reactors and now slowly restarting them. But something amazing has happened since those times where this whole drive to carbon-free, clean energy has really favored nuclear power in a way that I haven't seen in my career. And so we're seeing growth in nuclear power at about 2.5%, 3% annual growth. We've had 58 reactors come online around the world in the last 8 years. Now a new generation of small modular and advanced reactors like Bill Gates is building in Wyoming, really, really hitting this growth story for nuclear energy today. And then on the supply side, because we went through a difficult market with low uranium prices, uranium production has lagged uranium consumption globally by about 60 million pounds a year. We use about 190 million pounds of uranium to generate electricity in nuclear power plants around the world. Production's been coming in well below that for the last 4 or 5 years. So we have a commodity squeeze going on right now, and some other developments in the near-term market where we've seen speculative investments like the Swarts Physical Uranium Trust coming in and buying upwards of $3.4 billion of uranium off the open market. If you're old enough to remember the bunker hunt and their attempt to corner the silver market, well, this is a much more deeper pockets attempt to really not the uranium market, but really provide investment the physical uranium commodity. And that is in turn driving wonderful returns in the uranium equity. So we have just an all-around great story in the uranium thesis, right?
Excellent. So focusing on the supply and demand fundamentals, right? I think I caught that first part. Understanding the nuances of where the need is and where the market's going, and investing perhaps with folks like yourself who are doing this on a very intimate, focused level, I think is so far what I've gleaned from that. Now, why is it? I mean, and maybe it's not, but it seems like something like this is not as well known to, let's say, the average investor or the real estate investor or the entrepreneur business owner. Perhaps person is not as familiar or as comfortable in the stock market. Like, could you kind of just talk a little bit about how uranium and what you guys are doing and how it fits into perhaps a good balanced portfolio?
Yeah, well, I think uranium is probably the biggest untold story around, in that in the United States today we get 20% of our electricity from nuclear power, but it is a full 55% of our carbon-free energy. That's twice the contribution of wind and solar. And we've always known benefits of nuclear energy and its resilience. For example, nuclear energy is as clean in terms of emissions as wind and solar. It's as safe as wind and solar, which is surprising. But if you look at the hard data over the last 60 years, nuclear energy is perhaps the safest form of energy generation. Where we differ from the renewables is that we produce energy 95% of the time. Renewables only run at best 25 to 35% of the time. So you're going to have to figure as a society how you're going to get that other 70% of your energy supplies. And if policymakers are making it very difficult on oil and gas and coal, we really have few options to turn to. And that's what we're seeing is nuclear energy is really into the headlines. It helps COP26, the big climate change conference in Glasgow, where the climate change community is almost in a collective coming to the realization that they've been doing this 26 years and basically have nothing to show for it in terms of carbon emissions. I think worldwide coal use will be at a level around the world. So when people look at nuclear power in that light, in that context, resilient 24/7 power really is becoming more widely, and now investors, whether they're retail investors or institutions, and especially those investing in clean energy, sustainable investments, ESG investments, nuclear is now becoming very quickly accepted alongside investments in wind, solar, and battery type investments. And that's a very new situation, I would say, just in the last 5 years, that nuclear has been considered clean and sustainable, even though the facts have been it's always been. So I think we're seeing a lot of investor interest and both institutional and retail coming into the space these days.
Wow, those are some staggering stats. 50% of all of carbon-free energy is coming from, it sounds like, nuclear power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're only using it's only 20% of the total amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in other words, if we can exponentially increase that 20% to say even 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, we're going to see leaps and bounds of exponential carbon-free energy. Is that a fair summary so far on that piece?
Absolutely, and we're now seeing a next generation of small modular reactors, and these are not the 1,600 megawatt massive reactors that are going up around the world. These are the 100, 200 megawatt reactors that can be built in factories, shipped on site. If people are familiar with the nuclear navy, our aircraft carriers and submarines, they all run on small modular reactors and have done so safely since the 1950s. Well, now those are being sited in places like Idaho or Wyoming, or in the UK, where Rolls-Royce is rolling out 16 small modular reactors throughout the UK as a scalable clean energy way to provide electricity to their grid. So again, the growth is not just the reactors that are already operating in the United States or even under construction around the world. Another 51 are under construction presently. We're seeing this next generation, and if you need to get some more information on that, look at what Bill Gates is doing with TerraPower in the state of Wyoming, where Warren Buffett's electric utility company is buying one of these modular reactors to replace a coal-fired power plant in southwestern Wyoming near Kemerer. A great example of how this energy transition can be done in a positive way, because the impact, this is a very traumatic transition to a greener energy economy, and no one ever said being green is easy, and it's not. And if we though can replace some of those lost coal-fired jobs in the nuclear energy and uranium industry in Wyoming, that's a better solution than just saying, well, they can make solar panels or make windmills, which frankly are all made in other countries like China. So we have a great story to tell. The uranium market is undersupplied because of the low prices, which have now only begun to increase. We've reached 9-year highs in the uranium market, again, spurred on by some of the speculative investment in the commodity itself by Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, and the need for utilities. Electric utility companies have been quite complacent about low uranium prices and haven't been contracting. These would be companies like Duke Power, Exelon, Entergy, Dominion, that may be your local power company that has a nuclear power plant. They've been quite content to buy cheap uranium off of the spot and near-term market, but a new cycle is emerging where they're going to have to sign new long-term contracts. And the challenge is that there hasn't been a lot of incentive for uranium mining companies to get that capacity positioned and in place to meet the demand. So again, advice on investing in uranium is look for those companies that have the resources in good jurisdictions, that have the management teams that know how to mine and develop uranium, and have the customer relationships and get these mines into production with uranium prices that are really on the move as we speak.
That's very fascinating, and thought-provoking on so many levels. I do want to focus now on an investor who's listening to this. They could be a high net worth investor. I don't know if they need to be an accredited investor. And this the steps to be able to take. They say, hey, look, I like what he's saying. I see the future for nuclear and for the need for it. And I feel like I'd want to put in an investment. What would be the steps? Are they working with their financial advisor? Are they going to uraniumroyalty.com? Scott, kind of work us through how someone might actually invest into what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, Uranium Royalty, we launched publicly 2 years ago on the Toronto Stock Exchange, but a real significant development for us was to list on the NASDAQ earlier this year. So we're the only pure uranium company listed on the NASDAQ today. So we're a publicly traded equity. Its ticker symbol is UROY on the NASDAQ. UEC, our sister company in the uranium mining and development, is trading under UEC on the New York Stock Exchange. And these are companies like UEC is one of the highest, has the greatest liquidity and trading volume in the uranium space, trading about 7-8 million shares a day on a company that's now worth about $1 billion. I think URC's reached a market cap of about 400 million in a very short 2-year period. So these are companies that you can invest in. The difference between Uranium Royalty is if you want a diversified sort of ETF approach where we're uranium experts. We spent our entire careers in uranium. We're going out and doing the due diligence on potential developers and miners of uranium and securing royalties on their mines and allowing investors to benefit from that portfolio. Uranium Energy Corp has the direct leverage to the uranium story as a producer, developer, miner of uranium in two of the best jurisdictions in the world, in Wyoming and South Texas. We were in the news recently in that we acquired the Wyoming uranium assets of Uranium One, the famous Russian company that was Witten Foundation and that chapter in that company's history. Good news is we brought it back out of Russian hands into American ownership and developing on two platforms. But these are two publicly traded companies in the space and give really excellent exposure to the uranium and nuclear energy story.
Fantastic. So it's UROY for the
Yep.
ETF version, and then UEC for the direct version. You can go to uraniumroyalty.com. It's uraniumroyalty.com to connect with Scott Melbye and the company to learn more. That being said, Scott, are you ready for the shift to the capital gains tax solutions section of the show?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, and I know I'm not expecting you to be a tax professional or anything like that. Just everyone knows, and we're just talking about some challenges that ultra high net worth people face with public or private stock, cryptocurrency, gold, uranium. Perhaps it's subject to capital gains tax when you buy and then you go to sell, right? So all of these things are some of the challenges that our clients and our listeners are trying to solve for. So I'm curious, Scott, what's the biggest frustration that you've seen when it comes to selling highly appreciated assets and the capital gains tax deferral that's associated with it?
Yeah, well, listen, capital gains tax. This is a good problem to have. We hope that all of our investments are gaining in capital appreciation. In uranium space, we've seen already to date, we're probably in the first or second inning of this uranium bull market that we're in, but we've already seen UEC is up 140%, URC up 300% year to date. So it is a real concern, and I think it is important. I think a lot of us, maybe good investors, we can pick good companies to invest in and see those returns. But I think you really do need to have, sometimes we neglect tax advice on how to keep more of what we're making. It doesn't all have to go out the door to governments that are confiscating that wealth. So I would encourage you to engage experts. And I think by the very fact that you're tuned into this program, you're paying attention to that. But we'll provide the problem for you to solve by giving you those capital gains, which is a good problem to have.
Appreciate that, Scott. Yeah, 140%. That's some great numbers there, and it is. I actually had Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank on my show, and he goes, "Brett, I bought a stock at 25 cents, and it became a part of the board and a part of the company. Took an equity share, and the stock went up to like $25 or 20 something dollars a share." And he goes, "You're telling me there's a way to defer capital gains tax on the sale of public stock?" I'm like, yes, you can. And it's called a deferred sales trust. For our listeners who are listening, if you've had some huge gains in public stock, our minimum is $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. You can sell high and you can diversify. You can diversify into multiple assets, liquid investments. You can go back into real estate. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to sell high and diversify. And you can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, Scott, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you can go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Listen, no regrets on the industry that I selected, but if I was 25 today and going into it, I would, if I had engineering aptitude, I would go into small modular and advanced reactors because I think it would be an incredible next 50 years in that industry.
Fantastic. Question number 2, what's the one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Well, I'm a little biased. It's Clinton Cash. It's the story of the Uranium One and other Clinton stories. And then the follow-up to that is a Seamus Bruner, John Solomon book called Fallout. Again, kind of dives further into the Clinton story and how it kind of intersected into the uranium industry. Not exactly mainstream books, but given a few of those out to friends and clients.
What was the biggest aha moment when you read those books? Like, oh my gosh, if people knew what was going on behind the scenes. Something that really sticks out for you there?
I guess I'm shocked at how much corruption goes on in even a country like the United States. I think we all think that we hold ourselves to a higher standard, and we should. I hear some people say, oh, well, don't be naive. That's how the world works. I'd like to think that, we do hold a higher standard in the United States and don't do the same things that you see in Russia or China or Venezuela or other places. So I guess it's a little bit of a disturbing aha moment, but hopefully, we as a country and nation and individuals, we all choose the ethical right path instead of going down the dark side.
It's so true. Everything rises and falls on leadership, right? And we got like a leadership crisis going on right now, I think, in the world in so many ways. And so it's a big challenge. So next question, what are you most curious about right now?
I'm curious. I'm curious about. I'm worried about geopolitical things. Frankly, I see what's happening in Ukraine. I see what's happening in Taiwan and the South China Sea, and I struggle with this because I think on many levels we should be trading partners with all countries, including Russia and China. We'd much better be doing business together than at war with each other. But I really am concerned that we're going into a period here that could be pretty volatile and a violent period globally. So on a human level, that concerns me, and I'm curious as to how that's play out. As investors, I think that's got to factor into our decision making in the kind of companies or asset classes that we go into right now.
Second to last question, what's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I mean, again, back to your original comment, believe in yourself and follow your passions. And, along the line, there'll be a lot of people that will tell you why you can't do it or why something can't be done. Nothing infuriates me more, and I still see it to this day, even in my industry, when I hear people say, oh, well, we tried that before, it didn't work, or it was too expensive, or it was too hard. I go, well, listen, if it's too hard, then get out of the way. We need to find people in our industries and in our lives that are willing to put the effort into making it happen, whether that's hard work or investment or all the above. So I'm a very positive, power of positive thinking and really focused, passionate effort to make things, achieve the things that we're striving for.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really inspiring. Last question. After all your success, helping all the companies you've helped to build and helping to create even more education and more of a movement for uranium and nuclear power, How do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
Yeah, well, I think if you're a spiritual person, you've got to remember that, we don't do all of this on our own. I rely on my faith, and the strengths that I get are from above. And so that's something that's important to me. To others, it may be other things that keep them grounded. But I think it's important to have a focus on faith, family, and things that, I just returned from a trip to Mexico, and I remember seeing families in the park with very few monetary things to their net worth was probably not very big, but I didn't see anyone more happy in their lives than them enjoying their families and a barbecue in the park in Mexico. And sometimes I think we have to remember, yeah, it's important to provide for our families and create net worth and all that, but let's not forget there's other things in our lives that are perhaps more important, and we all have those. So we just sometimes we lose sight of it.
Scott, I want to thank you for being on the show. I know our listeners and myself are better for it. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts of your focus and your passion on an industry that needs more attention and more political support and more everyone's support, right? For safe, clean nuclear energy. That, I think of the Texas crisis, right, and what happened there, and so many things that we're relying on foreign powers, right, for oil or anything else. If we can move towards something that's safer and cleaner and better, good for the environment, and can provide power for us, right? So I encourage everybody to go to uraniumroyalty.com and get with Scott and consider maybe investing if you feel that's appropriate. So thank you, Scott, for being on the show. And I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to sell highly appreciated public stock, private stock, cryptocurrencies, businesses, real estate, and save a failed 1031 exchange. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. I also want to invite you and your CPA and anyone else who's wanting to learn to our free mastermind. We're calling this DST University. We're focused on cryptocurrency right now, and really making the Deferred Sales Trust simple. If you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, you can click on register for this free mastermind every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can be empowered with the Deferred Sales Trust and not ever have to feel trapped by capital gains tax when selling assets ever again. We're also streaming on expertcresecrets.com. We appreciate all the listeners out there. Please share this with someone it could help and inspire today. We so appreciate everyone out there, and we wish you a great